I'm joined by University of Central Oklahoma secondary and cornerbacks coach Kamau Dumas. Coach, thank you for taking time this evening to come on and talk to me. Could you start by telling the viewers and listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. So I'm originally from New Jersey. I'm from Morristown, New Jersey, North Jersey town, about 40 minutes outside of New York City. I have an older brother. Was raised with my mother and my grandmother up there. I have a fiance and a 1.5 year old son, my baby boy. Um, so that's a little bit about just my hometown experience. I'm 28 years old right now.
So now what now? Because myself included, most of us are Midwest based, so we don't. So if two, what? How would you describe, I guess, the football scene up on the East Coast and in New Jersey?
Yeah, sure. So, obviously, the difference between up in that Northeast region and down here is that, everything is kind of condensed, right? Like Jersey's an overpopulated state. If you look at it from an actual area standpoint, the state itself is a lot smaller than Oklahoma, but it's very densely populated. So, really, Jersey's got some pretty good football, I would say. I don't want to sound biased, like it's not Texas and even Oklahoma I've seen is really good football. But there are some really good programs up in North Jersey and South Jersey areas. And then a conference that a lot of people are familiar with is what we call the Big North. So that's where you'll get your powerhouse private schools like Don Bosco Prep, Bergen Catholic, St. Peter's Prep. Those teams are usually on the national scene. They have, multiple players going to Power Five schools and what have you. So I would say, it's good football. It's maybe a little more top heavy. I wouldn't say top to bottom is great, but for the teams that are really good, they're pretty stacked, I would say.
And you had a pretty good playing career at Morristown High. You were defensive back, a receiver, or a returner. You were on first team all conference. You were all county in 2012. What kind of I guess stands out to you the most about your high school career?
I guess what stands out to me the most is just, obviously my sophomore year was my first year really getting on the field. I was actually a backup DB that year, and one of the players, he got hurt. He was a corner, and I got thrown in the mix. And we were playing a really good team, Seton Hall Prep, who they ended up going 10-2 that year. A lot of guys went on to play Division I scholarship football, and I kind of got thrown in the fire. But that year was really special because we won a state championship. And I had an interception in Giant Stadium, which was, really dope. It's a really memorable experience for me. I still have my high school state championship ring. I moved quite a bit now, so it's been stacked and piled up somewhere. But it's just a great experience. But all in all, I would just say, just the relationships you have with your boys, man. And in high school, a lot of the guys you're playing with, you grew up with those guys. You're from the same town. Obviously got some guys opted to go to private school route, which was best for them. But just the relationships, you're spending time with these guys in school all day. You're playing video games at their house, going out and stuff. So, that brotherhood, if you will, it's a real thing. And I think, that's a real special feeling that, you don't always get when you move on to the college level.
And like, being thrown into that role as a sophomore, kind of how do you not let the moment kind of consume you? I feel like it'd be really easy to have. I'm sure you were nervous, but it'd been really easy to kind of have cowered under that under that kind of situation. So how are you kind of able to um, thrive when you got your chance so early on in your high school career?
Yeah, sure. I would really give the kudos to the upperclassmen. There were There weren't, and not like I played at a crazy powerhouse. It was a good program though, for sure. Well-storied program. We had some really good players on the team. So for me, being the young guy, it was kind of like, I don't want to let those guys down. I don't want to be the reason why, maybe we're not having success. So it is nerve-wracking to some degree, right? You're kind of out there playing more to not mess up as opposed to actually go and make a play. So I really just give all the credit to the upperclassmen and the guys who already had the experience, and giving me the confidence to go out there and to play. So just the encouragement from those guys, putting confidence in me to go out there and do my job to help the team. So I give it to them. And then just once you kind of get thrown in the fire a little bit, experience is the best teacher. So week one out there for the first time, you're probably going to have your nerves a little more settled by the time you get to week 6, and so forth and so on.
And you also were all conference in track. So now how first of all, I guess how are you able to kind of translate the speed on the racing track onto the football field?
Yeah, sure. I'm a big track guy. I think I don't want to say it's imperative, but one, you love guys that play other sports. And when you look at football, football it's not long running, it's bursts. A play may last 4 or 5 seconds. So it's bursts. And I felt track was something that translated for me. I started running track in 8th grade. And, I wasn't the fastest guy, when I got out there. But as you continue staying at it and staying consistent, your technique gets a little bit better. You're running longer distance than you would in football. So, football field's 100 yards, which I think is like 92 meters or something like that. You're going to run longer distances than that in track. So I feel like the endurance, the mechanics of running is something that was very helpful. So for me, the positions that I played, carrying the ball or being a defensive back, you need speed at those positions. Speed kills. So for me, it was a very positive experience. And I felt, it really translated to me being able to separate myself because, I didn't have the size. I'm considered an undersized guy. So, when you're smaller, you play with a chip on your shoulder. But again, you got to be fast at least if you're going to be a smaller guy.
And so what made you decide that Monmouth is where you wanted to play your college football?
Yeah, sure. It's a great institution. It's a little over an hour from where I grew up. I mean, there were a few other FCS schools that were recruiting me pretty hard. And Monmouth was the first school that offered me a scholarship. And recruiting, we could talk about recruiting all day, and it's changed drastically, even from when I was in college. But they were loyal and they saw something in me. It was an opportunity for me to play at a high level, and get a free education. So, when it came time, I went and visited there. And that was one school that really stuck in there with me. There were some other schools that were recruiting me hard, and that did end up offering me a scholarship. But Monmouth was a school that I felt the players were genuine. I felt they were really building something there. The coaches, I had trust in the coaches, and at that time, Marvin Clessidor was the secondary coach who recruited me. Scott Van Zyl, who he coached in college for some time, he recruited me as well. And those guys they saw something in me. They put confidence in me. And I felt as if it was a place that was home. Good academic school, gave me an opportunity to have options outside of football when I graduated. So it worked out well.
In 2014, you appeared in 11 games, made 21 tackles. But what jumped out to me, though, you led the team with almost 300 kick return yards. I guess what kind of, in your opinion, I guess what kind of is the key being a good kick returner?
Yeah, sure. One term that a lot of guys hear at the college level is, running through smoke, right? And what that means is, when you're returning a kick, the picture, there's a place that you want to go with the ball, right? There's a designed return, right? A left return, right return, middle return, what have you, counter where you're trying to bring it back across the field. But one is you have to have the ability to run through smoke. And what that means is when the picture looks foggy and there's bodies flying all over the place, you don't want to stop your feet. You have to trust that that hole is going to eventually open up. And when it does, you want to be able to hit it full speed. So obviously catching the ball, which, catching kicks is a lot easier than catching punts. But, getting behind the ball and trying to hit it full speed. So a lot of times you'll see, returners in the NFL and what have you, they try to catch the ball while they're moving forward, right? Bringing your momentum with you when you catch it. But the main thing is, being able to run through smoke, and you got to have some speed as well, right? So you want to be able to get to that next level and try to get into open field to get a big play for the team. So that's what I would say is most important, I guess.
You mentioned that fielding a kick is easier than fielding a punt. I guess to maybe people that might not know, assume, okay, well, kick and punt should kind of be similar. What kind of is the big difference between fielding a kick and fielding a punt?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. So when you field a kick, the ball spins end over end, meaning the points of the football is where the ball is turning. Whereas opposed to a punt, majority of the time, it spins just like a regular spiral. So if I threw somebody a pass, that's what a punt looks like. Now you just add the velocity of the punt. So when the ball's dropping out of the air, you think about just if I stood on top of a 3-4 story building, all right, and I might be exaggerating on the height, but just if I stood on top of a 3-story building and dropped the ball and said, go ahead and catch it, by the time that ball gets down to you, it's dropping fast. The gravity's bringing that ball down fast. So just that in general is the first part of trying to field that and make sure you have the proper technique with catching the ball. And then the second element is that there's people that are running right at you and you don't have a lot of time to try and set up a return. So with the kick return, the ball is going to be in the air for about 50, 60 yards and the defenders coming to tackle you are further away while you have blockers in front to set you up. Whereas a punt return, really the first guys are going to be screaming down the field, which we call the gunners, and a lot of the time you're going to have to make someone miss immediately. So you have to not only catch the ball, but you have to be ready to make a defender miss right when you catch it a lot of times. Whereas a kick return, you have a lot more distance between the closest defender after you catch the ball.
And I think another thing too is you mentioned, because when you're footing a punt, obviously they're running towards you. How do you know, aside from the obvious times where, okay, I need to fair catch this? How do you kind of judge between whether or not to take the risk and return it, or just call it a fair catch?
Yeah, sure. Usually, if someone's going to be back, especially at the college level now, if someone's back there as a punt returner or a returner in general, they usually have a good feel for that. It's an instinctual thing, right? A ball carrier or returner, if you will, they have to have some form of instincts of knowing when they have room and when they don't, right? But a rule of thumb is just usually if you feel like you have 5 yards of space, and for really good returners, you can slim that margin down a little bit. But if you have about 5 yards of space, then usually you have enough room to catch it. And you're going to have to make that first defender miss. But if you feel like you're immediately threatened when the ball's coming to you, then 9 times out of 10, you're going to just do the smart thing and fair catch the ball. So, again, when you're catching the ball, you're going to feel defenders in your peripheral vision. And that's where it's like, again, a lot of repetition comes into play. And it's an instinctual thing, I would say, for sure, though.
And your senior year, you had a school record 89-yard punt return for the touchdown. Kind of walk me through how you were able to take that punt return 89 yards for a score.
Yeah, sure. So, nobody has any success on their own. So I definitely, got to give credit to the return team. But I guess just that week, you know, we felt like there was a certain return that we can get, which was a sideline right return for us. And one of my goals going into the season was to be an All-American as a returner, as a punt returner. And something I really worked a lot at. And I know our return team in general just really worked a lot at it. So, I got a pretty booming punt from the punter. I remember I ended up catching it. And one of the most important things, again, making the first guy miss, right? Gunners, when they're running down to tackle a returner, they're taught to try to make that punt returner work laterally, right? So the worst place a punt return can hit is straight back at you downhill, because now you're just gaining the yards back that were punted. So, you want to flip the field and win the field position. So a gunner is taught to try to make the returner move laterally. So there was a guy right there getting ready to tackle me. I made the first guy miss. And then immediately I tried to get to the wall, which they had a wall set up to shield the right side of the field, the sideline. I was able to get enough speed to get around the corner and then make a guy miss, cut back in the middle of the field. And we were off to the races, man. I was so tired after that.
And you were able to in your career, you all went 9-3, you made playoffs. When you look back on your college career, I get what kind of stands out to you the most?
Sure. Again, I mean, it's always going to go back to the relationships, the players that I played with. They were all great guys. They were selfless guys, which was why we were able to have the success we had. My senior year was very memorable because that was the first time Monmouth went to the FCS playoffs. That was the first time we were ranked top 25 in 1AA. So it was really a historical season for us. It was very fun, a lot of hard work, a lot of trust. And again, just the people that you do it with, though, it's all about the people that you're with. So sharing that success with those guys is what really made it memorable for me.
And then after college, you had a tryout with the Giants. Well, I had to ask because you mentioned earlier about playing in Giant Stadium, then getting that tryout. Did that kind of hit you like, okay, this is kind of a full circle moment here? Like here I was playing in the stadium, and now handful of years later, I'm back in the stadium trying out for the team.
Yeah, it was definitely a full circle moment. And the funny thing is, I'm an Eagles fan, but my dad's side of the family's from Philadelphia. But so we weren't in the stadium. We were in the facility though, which is right next to MetLife Stadium. So it's called Quest Diagnostics. But like that's where the practice facility is, the locker room, the weight room, and what have you. But it was definitely surreal. Just I used to go to games at the Giant Stadium with one of my best friends growing up. And I always used to just try to envision myself there. It's like, wow, like these people made it. And, everybody dreams and you should dream. So to really just be in the NFL locker room it was such an unbelievable experience. Some of your favorite players are in that locker room. Like for me, one of my favorite corners was Janoris Jenkins, Jackrabbit, in his locker. I'm looking right at his locker in the locker room and what have you. So it was just a great experience, man. Just very humbling being able to have that opportunity. It's something that even to this day, I've been able to lean on in ways and just talk to guys about just the sacrifice and what it takes to even try to get to that level.
And then you spent some time in the indoor football league. We have I think 3 former Broncos playing in the indoor football league.
Mhm.
2 for Tulsa. Well, take it back. We have 1 in San Antonio, 1 in Salina, Kansas, and 1 playing for Tulsa. What kind of, I guess, was the adjustment like going from the outdoor game to the indoor game?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the main thing would just be obviously the size of the field. Outdoor football field's 100 yards, indoors only 50 yards. So you think from a coverage standpoint, well, this is less area that you have to cover, which was true, and that was good, right? It makes it harder for quarterbacks to throw in tight windows because there's not a lot of space. Shortens the field for the defense in the secondary. But on the flip side, not only are the offense is scoring so many points, it can be almost discouraging. Look at the scores, 60 to whatever. So they're scoring a lot, and it makes you feel like, dang, man, maybe we're playing poorly. But the biggest thing is obviously the number of players on the field. So there's 8 players on the field. And then the wide receivers, they get a running start to the line of scrimmage. So that also is really difficult. So, as a DB, you're standing still. And on a regular field, usually the receivers are standing still. And on the snap, then they can go and advance. But in indoor, they're motioning from about 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage. So by the time the ball gets snapped, they're close to a full speed sprint right at you. So that's an adjustment in the indoor game. And then the fans, the environment, it's right on you. I've seen plenty of guys go over the wall, and it's fun for the fans and exciting, but it's a health risk too now. It is, I will say.
You brought a good point because the receivers do get that running start. So as a DB, how do you kind of, I guess, like adapt to that and still be able to try and cover the receiver and make a play?
Mm. Yeah, sure. Well, playing the defensive back position, you got to have great feet. And the best comparison that I could give to playing versus a motioning receiver in the indoor league is similar to playing a catch man technique, which, if for those who don't know, catch man is a technique used a lot in man-to-man coverage. And what it means is you're kind of trying to take a charge. So if you play basketball, right, you slide it in front of that dribbler as he's driving to the hole so that you can get your body in front and take a charge. It's the same thing in football. So it's like playing catch man technique. So as a receiver is approaching the line of scrimmage, as a DB, you're trying your best to stop his forward progress. And how you do that is by getting your body in front of him, right? If you just get a hand on him, that's easy for someone to run through, as opposed to literally trying to cut them off with your body to stop their forward progress. So that's a technique that was worked a lot. There were receivers that had to start on the line of scrimmage itself and didn't get a running start. But for those guys that got a running start, you just make sure you get in position because you're going to be taking a charge.
And at some point you end up, I guess, deciding to hang up the cleats, get into coaching. What kind of led you to finally make that transition?
Yeah. So, football is going to end for everybody at some point. For me, I'm just, so thankful and blessed to the coaches that I had in my life and, the impact they had on me. And I just felt, I was at the time I finished college, I was going through those ranks of trying to play. But again, this is the other side now of being a quote unquote free agent and you don't have a home, and maybe you have some workouts and invites and stuff. But at the end of the day, unless you sign a contract, you're not really making money. So at that time, I was substituting at my high school back home, and I started coaching football and track at my high school. So that was in about 2019, I want to say, the winter of 2019. And while I'm there, for me as a player, I always felt like I was kind of a student of the game in ways, watched a lot of film and studied, what have you. So I always wanted to coach guys that aspire to play at a high level. And, it's neither here nor there, but everyone in high school doesn't aspire to play at a high level. And you always have a discrepancy in, regular John who just wants to, be a part of the team and be cool and what have you, between Bill, who wants to go and play college or what have you. So, for me, I felt it was a really great opportunity to coach guys who really wanted to be successful in the game of football and had the passion and drive to do it. And I feel like it matched my intensity of the game too. I've always been an intense coach. So I ended up, just kind of doing a little more research in it, reaching out to some mentors of mine who were coaches, and they all felt that I'd be a great coach. And, we ended up finding a place.
And what was that adjustment period like? Because obviously coaching you can put them in the best position humanly possible, but they have to be the one to make the play. Where in turn, I imagine you're used to being the one to be able to go out there and make the play. So what kind of was that adjustment period like, going from player to coach?
Yeah, sure. I would say from a teaching standpoint, um, it was very enjoyable in just the sense of, I felt like there were things that I learned playing at a higher level that, you may not know really in high school. So it was fun being able to give those players those tools and resources. It has its frustrating moments because, you're only as good as what you have in your room, or on the team, and just the reality of coaching in high school is that everyone's not going to have the ability or even maybe the mental capacity to do the things that you want to do. You have to be a little bit more simple and simplify things, which is okay. But some of the frustration was, not feeling like you're really, I guess you feel maybe limited in ways from what you can do from a schematic standpoint or from a personnel standpoint. So that can be frustrating at times, but really most of it's just been just excitement. I mean, for me, I I didn't really miss playing when I was done. I didn't have any regrets and what have you. And the one thing about coaching that I felt is you get all the same excitement you do as a player. So when someone you're helping coach and teach how to be better as a player, when they go out there and execute it, I mean, the excitement is the same as if you were out there making the play. And the only difference is now my body's not getting banged up.
I guess that has to be refreshing change, right? Like you're not gonna get you don't have to get in the in the cold tub and, and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You finish game.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't need any of that anymore, man. I don't need that cold tub, but the excitement's there. You get nervous a little, but again, even like for me, I don't have the same nerves as I did as a player. So really the excitement is all there though. So that's the fun part. But again, just sometimes if you're limited in ways, you're not going to be able to do the things that you could do at a collegiate level, with the players or with the scheme.
And from that standpoint, I guess what how did that help you as a coach? Coming in, having to simplify maybe concepts and schemes that you've ran in college, you ran at your various pro stops, to now kind of having to dumb it down a little bit. How did that kind of help you as you began your coaching career?
Yeah, it helped a lot. It helped tremendously because you really have to see how well of a teacher you really are. You have to really evaluate your ability to teach. And a coach is a teacher. You're a mentor, of course, off the field, but in terms of on the field, in the meeting room, you're a teacher. So it doesn't matter what I know. I need to get you to know what I know and to execute. So you think about it, and I really mean this. Like you start off like you would teach a 5-year-old. Can you teach a 5-year-old how to do something? And I say that in a sense of just the simplicity, or never assume that someone knows anything. People don't know. You know what you know. So never assume anybody knows anything, and be very specific and almost at a novice level what you're teaching before you start to build on the foundation. Because again, you got to build from the ground up, right? How to play man to man. What is man to man? Just really answering those questions, because as a player sometimes you have a coach, and majority of the time the coach is more knowledgeable than you are, and they sometimes don't take the time to really address what a player may not know. They just assume that the player knows. So coaching at those lower levels, like high school or youth, whatever, you really have to teach, and you have to be simple in your teaching. So translating it, I feel like at the college level, of course it gets more complex, but just going back to those basics of, right, don't assume anything, teach, be detailed, and be a great teacher.
And from Morristown, you end up for a couple of months at McPherson College up there in Kansas. How were you able to so quickly go from high school to the college level?
Yeah, so it was like the winter time, I believe, prior to going to McPherson, and I had a buddy who was in college coaching, and I had reached out to some of my buddies how I wanted to get into coaching, and the biggest thing was just getting into college coaching. It doesn't matter where, because a lot of the responsibilities are similar wherever you go. There's certain software programs you need to be able to work. You have to learn how to recruit at a high level. You have to learn the complexity of identifying offenses, or just getting yourself familiar with football itself. It really teaches you what you don't know when you get into coaching. So I had a buddy who ended up recommending me for the job, actually, who's a college coach, and it was my first coaching job. It was very exciting, and just it was a very quick turnaround. With coaching, a lot of people don't know the coaching lifestyle. Sometimes it's it's unforgiving, and we were, my fiance at the time, she was pregnant actually when we went out there to Kansas. So it was about a 19-hour drive. We drove out there, and I ended up interviewing for the job, and I had a good understanding of defensive back play. Again, not the level that I really would need going forward, but enough for me to end up getting the job. And Evan Knight, who was the defensive coordinator at the time, he ended up hiring me for the job, along with Jeremiah Fiskus, who's the head coach. And then I was there for a short time, and but we moved out there, and it was literally probably we were packed up and out of our house in about a week and a half after getting offered the job. So from New Jersey to Kansas in less than 2 weeks.
And then you're in Kansas for what, like a month, and then you got to pack up and you go all the way to
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Pennsylvania.
It was short.
Oh,
It was short lived. Yeah, I was there about, I want to say about almost 4 months. I would say close to 4 months. But I didn't even make a full season there. I didn't even make it through the season. I made it through spring ball and like a little bit of the summer workouts.
and then how do you go from McPherson to Gannon?
Yeah, yeah. So again, just I had I got a call, and a lot of times that's how this profession just works. It's who you know and who knows you, and just having genuine relationships. So I get a call from a buddy of mine, and he asked me, "Am I interested in going to Gannon?" And I'll be quite honest with you. I'm from the Northeast. Gannon's in Erie, which is a little closer to Buffalo. It's like next to Ohio. I hadn't really heard of Gannon, so I had to do my research. I knew the conference very well, the PSAC conference. I knew the conference well. It's a well-respected conference up in that Northeast area. But I just didn't know about that other side of Pennsylvania really as much. So I did a little bit of research, but basically a buddy of mine called and said, "Look, are you interested in this job? The defensive coordinator is a very well-respected coach in the profession. I'll be able to learn out there." And it was a step up from a career standpoint. So I ended up interviewing for that job. I was down at my mom's down in North Carolina, and I ended up interviewing for that job and ended up getting offered the job. So now here we are. We left Kansas and we're heading up to Pennsylvania. This was in July of 2022.
And what else found interesting too, you were also the video coordinator, and I think, to my knowledge, this is the first time I'm talking to someone that is the video coordinator. I filmed for in high school. I filmed for football and soccer, so I got a soft spot for the video guys. It's kind of like unsung heroes type of thing.
Yeah.
But so, like, what kind of all did your role as a video coordinator entail?
Yeah, man. Welcome to the club. It's tough. It could be tough. So really for me, my job, um, as far as a weekly basis, we had cameras. We used a drone to film our practices, which was really nice. But just learning how to work the drone, having students and student athletes that were on the team who maybe were injured, or just people that helped out with the team, teaching them how to work it. But mainly just throughout the week, my job was to record practice, intercut practice, tag the film, meaning put in the plays and the proper offensive plays with matching with the proper defensive plays. You have to share the film with a pool for the rest of the coaches in the conference so that they had access to it and could game plan. And then as far as the games are concerned, it was, I didn't record obviously because I'm coaching, but after the game, I had to go and grab the film and make sure I uploaded it and intercut the film, which probably was the most strenuous part. So, sometimes whoever's recording the game, they may be late on a play, they may miss a play. So when you're intercutting the film, you have to make sure that all the shots, right, the wide shot, which is like what people see on TV from the NFL or whatever, then the tight shot, which is just behind the lineman, the end man of the line of scrimmage, so like the tackle to the tackle. And really, those are the only two shots we use, but just making sure that those shots lined up. So, you have to go through every play in the game, which offense and defense, there's about 70 plays in a game at least. So, you're going through 140 plays and special teams, and you're making sure that all the shots line up properly and nothing is off, because that'll mess up the entire game as far as how you watch it and grade it. So that was probably those were probably the biggest roles that I had, just making sure that everything was good on that end,
Yeah, I
uploading the
mean,
film.
yeah, because when I filmed in high school, I was filming both. So I was filming the wide and the tight. And I thought it was just simple, like, all right, I'm putting on a camera, I got on a
Mhm.
tripod, just make sure it's steady. But I was like, oh no,
Mhm.
there's some legit like intricacies to this. Like I got to be sure
Yeah.
on this tight, I'm getting from. I
Mhm.
think for me it was like from the linebackers because you ran the
Mhm.
flex bone to like
Oh yeah.
slightly past or full. I mean, yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
there's a lot that goes into it. The people just don't
Oh,
understand.
for
Like, it's
sure.
as easy as turn on camera.
Oh no, not at all, man. Hey, I salute you. I salute you, man. It's great getting that experience though, but I'm glad that that job is past and done now.
Yeah, no. I couldn't do it now. Standing on top of those press boxes is cold now, right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Real up there, man. Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah. Man. Yeah, and now from your from a cornerback coach standpoint, now you helped a unit that allowed only 183.9 yards a game. You had corners to less than 50% completion and notched 9 picks. What kind of contributed to you all's success from a pass defense standpoint?
Yeah. You're asking that Gannon, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, it always starts up top, and Coach Nardo was the defensive coordinator. Obviously, Coach Swanson and Coach Pearson, who I'm here with at UCO. But really, it just starts with the culture, and I'll say Coach Nardo had a really special way of getting guys to buy in and to have confidence. So once the players have confidence in the coaches and know that they genuinely care about them, you really see a whole different, you tap into an entirely different category as far as productivity on the field. You know, um, when your coaches really have confidence in you and trust and ability in you, it allows you to go out there and just play and not worry about, being ridiculed or just, being fearful of what your coach might say or what have you. And especially at the corner position, you have to have confidence to play it, and you're going to get beat sometimes. And, I always say you have to win a lot more than you lose. But I've been in that position before. I've been beat in front of thousands of people, and then you going to allow that to affect you for the next play? So the main thing I would say is really the culture that was built at Gannon, which allowed all the guys to play fast, to feel like their coaches trusted them, to trust each other, and then it tied into the confidence. So they felt as if, the coaches instilled confidence in them. And, of course, I mean, we know what we're talking about to level 2, right? You can't be a college coach and not know anything about the position you're coaching or whatever your role is. So, that was helpful too. Because I'm using that specifically for me playing corner. Like every position that corner might get into on the field, for the most part, I've been in their shoes, and I could talk to them from like a standpoint of someone who's done it as well, which I felt was helpful. But more importantly, it was the confidence that we were able to instill in those players, and they instilled in themselves, that allowed them to go out there and play fast and make plays.
And then after that successful season, you were once again move, this time going to Wagner. So now how do we go from Gannon to Wagner?
Yeah, it's crazy, So going to Gannon, it was an amazing opportunity. We had a great year there. And really there's a lot of positions in college that, they're not full-time positions. So for me, Wagner was a little bit of a better financial situation for my family and I. It was a step up, as far as it was a FCS school now. But really the biggest thing was just there was the financial aspect of being able to provide better. So, I ended up getting a call after the season, and, I'm on the road recruiting for Gannon, and I'm back in Jersey, and I get a call from the head coach, Coach Masella. And long story short, he played in like back in the 80s. He graduated from Wagner. He's actually in the Hall of Fame there. He played in the secondary. But he played at Wagner in the 80s for my head coach from Monmouth, who was the secondary coach at Wagner at the time. So, my resume came across his desk. He wanted me to interview. I went in for an interview, and I ended up getting offered the job. So, here we are now. It was a lot shorter trip than Kansas back up north, but took a straight shot on 80, and we were back in New Jersey, so it was about 6 hours, I would say, back there. And I ended up getting hired at Wagner officially. I started on December 1st, so of 2022. So that was right after the season at Gannon.
And then your unit also had a good season there too, allowing less than 200 yards a game, less than 50% completion, notched 10 picks. What was working for the secondary during that 2023 season?
Yeah, sure. So, I was one of many coaches that got hired there. There was, we got a new offensive coordinator, a new D line coach, new receivers coach, running backs coach. Just there were a lot of new faces that were in the building. I recruited some of the guys that ended up getting there, through the transfer portal when I first got there. But again, they had the tools in place to have a little bit more success. Just from a secondary standpoint, Coach Masella, he was a coordinator as well, the D coordinator, and he's had a lot of success in his track history of being a coordinator at different schools at the FBS and FCS level. And he was a really good defensive mind, so I really did learn a lot from him, just as far as the entire picture. And he was a secondary guy as well. So just kind of learning different ways to manipulate front structures and blitz packages with different coverages, right? So you're not just keeping your coverages vanilla, but you're disguising or making it look like this, changing a rotation here, and just the variety, I feel like, of what we were able to do in the secondary was what allowed us to be able to go and make plays. So, and not to mention too, the run defense was pretty good. I think, we finished second in the conference. So, overall the defense, the guys played hard. They were bought in for the most part, and they played hard.
And so once again, now we're on the move. You end up here in Edmond. So now, how do we go
Mhm,
from Wagner? You're back close to home, to then going
mhm.
way back to the Midwest now
I know.
and
Oh,
landing in
man.
Edmond.
Yeah, man. So it's crazy. Again, just goes back to relationships. And I've got a lot of love and I built some great relationships at Wagner. But I'll say, the time I spent at Gannon working with Coach Swanson and working with Coach Pearson, we really built a strong, strong relationship. Not to mention the success we had and just, me knowing those guys, not just from a coaching level, but from a personal level, and the respect that we all had. It was mutual respect. So when the opportunity presents itself, Coach Swanson gets hired here, and I'm keeping tabs on him. We're communicating, throughout, because those are guys that have good relationships with outside of football. And he's kind of just talking to me, and one day he's saying, "Well, it looks like I'm gonna get the DC title. I'm gonna be promoted to the coordinator." Coach Leck, who was here, I know he ended up getting a head job. So Swanson gets promoted to coordinator. And he just mentions the possibility of me, he gauges my interest to see if I'd be interested in coming out here. And, of course, just, relationships. I know he's a great guy. I think he's a great defensive mind. He's a young coach, that's really on the rise. I think he's a great coach. And, he talks to me about the possibility of coming out. So, initially I'm not entertaining it too much because it is strenuous making those major moves, especially off the, across the country and whatnot. But, then he starts to also mention that he's going to have the freedom to bring in two guys in the back end, in the secondary. And he mentions Coach Pearson. And Coach Pearson and I worked together at Gannon, and we worked great together. Someone I have a lot of respect and love for. And, so now it's starting to kind of get a little bit more real, and we're having more conversations about the possibility of interviewing for the job. So then, Coach Doro ends up getting in contact with me as well. And then I ended up interviewing. So I went through, I had an interview. The interview went well. And Coach Pearson gets interviewed as well. So now the real possibility of us being, reunited again and working together, it was something that was very interesting to me. And, again, I just knew the type of men that I was going to be working with. We already knew how we worked, and the mutual relationship we have for each other. So we both ended up getting offered the job, and just crossed some things off the checklist, made sure things were good, and ended up accepting the job.
And so now that you're reunited with Coach Swanson and Coach Pearson, was it? I guess what does that mean to you now to be working alongside guys you respect professionally and personally?
Yeah, it means a lot. It really means a lot. I know that they respect what I bring in the back end. I respect what they bring from not only just a defensive standpoint, but at their respective positions as well. And it means a lot just knowing, you want to work with people that you trust as well. And again, having those great relationships. You look at coaching staffs all the time, and what do guys do? They hire people that they know, one, are going to do a great job, but two, that they can trust. And when you have a successful season like we had at Gannon, winning 8 games, there, of course, it's on the players. They went out and executed, but also, we played a role in helping those guys. So when you have success, you say, well, you could take some of the good things that happen here, and what those guys are going to bring to the table, and upholding their part of the stick. So it means a lot, man, just being able to have the opportunity to work with those guys. Again, we have great relationships from a family and personal standpoint, and on the field. I know those guys are going to coach hard. And part of that too, uh, you know, I had time. I went somewhere else and I learned different things there defensively, schematically, or from a program standpoint. So now I'm not only, someone that they already are familiar with, but now I'm also bringing new ideas back from things that we might have done in the secondary at Wagner and whatnot. And now we can implement maybe some of those ideas. And also just from the love that we have, brothers fight as well. And not saying that we get in the fights, but I say it in a sense of, we all don't want to have the same thought process from a schematic standpoint. I might have a difference in opinion than Coach Swanson, or Coach Swanson can have a difference of opinion in something from Coach Pearson, and we're all working towards the same end goal. And we know that about each other. There's no egos whatsoever. You hear us say all the time, ego is the enemy. That's something you'll hear that Coach Swanson tabbed for the defense. And, there's truly no ego involved at all. So that's a really big thing. And just, again, knowing that you can trust those guys and that they're going to do a great job, it goes a long way.
And I know earlier you mentioned how much recruiting has changed from your time being recruited to now being on the other side doing the recruiting. I guess what kind of is the biggest change that you've seen from your time being recruited to now you as a recruiter actually recruiting guys?
Yeah, sure. So, obviously the, social media is going to be number one. But the biggest and the most glaring is the transfer portal. I will say, I mean, it has impacted high school recruiting a lot. It would be it'd be false to say that it hasn't. When I was in college, and my last season playing at Monmouth was in 2017. You had to sit out an entire year if you transferred to another school, unless you transferred down a level. So if you went from FBS to FCS, you could play right away, or FCS to Division II. But if it was a lateral move or a transfer up, you were not eligible to play right away. So obviously that's changed. The transfer portal again has become like free agency in some levels. You have thousands of college players that may not be happy in a situation they have, where they're at, or just for whatever reasons they feel it's best for them to leave. So from that standpoint, you're recruiting your own team and trying to get those guys to stay as well. It's not where, maybe a guy waits to get on the field and develop more till he's ready to play. Well, if that guy feels like he's ready now and maybe his coach isn't giving him a fair shake, he's going to go ahead and transfer. So that's impacted it greatly. But just from the social media standpoint, I want to say Instagram might have just been made like a couple of years before I was a senior, and Twitter, obviously Twitter was out, but it was not used the way it is now for recruiting. Just the social media aspect has played a huge role, not only just from an accessibility standpoint and being connected with people, right? You could send messages and just have easy access to getting in contact with coaches or players. But also from the standpoint of just the negative side of it is just the covetousness, if you will, that comes from it, right? You see what someone else has going on, and you got graphics everywhere, and just you could see how another player's recruitment is going, and sometimes it can have a negative effect on you as a recruit, feeling like maybe you're not content with the opportunities that you've been given, or whatever it is, but I always tell guys, like, just run your own race. Run your own race. What's meant to happen will happen. And it's just a blessing to be recruited in general. So I would say, the social media and the transfer portal would have really, changed the recruiting from when I was being recruited as a player.
And we're on the lines of that. When I was looking at the cornerback class that you all put together this past year, I was really impressed by the number one was the ball skills. I think almost every corner that you had, I saw on film, they were able to make a play on the ball. That
Yeah.
wasn't it was a problem for us last year. We had multiple drop picks. I feel like you've got guys that, for the most part, have good length. They've got good range to them. And they're either solid or willing tacklers. what kind of do you like most about that cornerback class that you all put together?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm gonna give credit to the previous staff that was here because I didn't really recruit these guys. I got here after a lot of them had already been heavily recruited and were kind of locked in. But I did watch all the incoming DBs and their film, and one thing that stands out, like you mentioned, is not only they're able to make plays on the ball, but they have some legit speed. These guys have legit speed. You got guys in track running under 22 seconds in the 200, running the 110 hurdles under 15 seconds, and that really, it translates in my opinion, being athletic and playing multiple sports. But in general, I just think, UCO did a great job with the class, and we're looking to continue to build on that, of course. But these are guys I truly feel will make an impact in the program. The speed is great, the change of direction that the guys have, the length, all the things that you mentioned. Those are the intangibles from an athletic standpoint that help you win, right? And coaches coach, right? I can't make anyone jump higher. I can't make anybody run faster, right? But if you have that God-given ability to do it, and I can teach you the game of football to make you play at a high level, then those things go together well. So I feel like they did a great job of just, really locating that talent and keeping the guys, really good players from Oklahoma here in the state, and then finding other guys to come and help add to the program.
And then looking at returning, I don't know if you've gotten a chance to really look at the film from last year before, kind of get a feel. But there was it seemed like it took a minute for the corners to kind of come together last year, and when they did, they played really good down the stretch. I go back to Pitt State. It was a great game. I know there's been some turnover in that room, but the main guy returning, in my opinion, you have J.K. Moore. He's a high energy guy. He's a high effort guy. He was always around the ball last year. He had two very clutch picks. One against Creighton opener for a touchdown, and then another one that clinched us the President's Cup. What kind of, I guess, what can fans expect to see out of that cornerback room? And I guess do you feel like um how to phrase this? You feel like the guys that are there can 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 fit to what you're wanting that unit to do?
Mhm. No, for sure. I got a chance. I haven't seen all of them, but I've definitely watched games from this past season. And just speaking on JK, he's done a great job. He's somebody that, I look at as a leader in that group, as a veteran guy in that group, someone who's had a lot of playing experience. He's just done a great job bringing great energy, being focused and detailed, asking the right questions. And he's a hard worker, man. He's got great athletic ability as well, but he's a hard worker. And, one thing that you guys can expect out of the corner room is, guys that are going to really be competitive. There's obviously a bunch of other things that, we keep in-house as far as goals and things of that nature. But one non-negotiable at playing the corner position is a dog mentality. And, every play, we're going to make sure that we're having a positive impact on the play. If the ball's in the air, we're looking to take the ball away. We're all about the ball. We're looking to take the ball away. In the run game, we're looking to be a presence on the edge and forcing the ball. So we're looking to produce a room that's gonna have guys that have that dog mentality, who are highly competitive, and are looking to win a lot more than they lose. Right? They're looking to execute and hate losing more than they win. Honestly, so that dog mentality is something that you guys could look forward to seeing.
And spring was right around the corner. What kind of are you wanting to accomplish during the spring to help kind of set your unit up for success come fall camp and during the season?
Yeah. Really just having a great understanding of the playbook, of the scheme, right? Whenever you're a player and you get new coaches and you're maybe running a different defense, how soon can we get those guys up to speed where they can play fast and we can eliminate the thinking. So the biggest thing throughout the spring is just really sharpening our tools from a technique standpoint within our scheme, making sure that guys know what they're doing, understand what they're doing, trust what they're doing, trust in their coaches, and just go out there and fly around and have fun. We don't we don't want guys thinking, overthinking. We want them to go out there, know what they're doing, have confidence in what they're doing, so that they can now really work on being productive and executing. So the biggest thing now, just leading into the fall, is just using this spring to really familiarize ourselves with the defense. And then we can now figure out the guys that are going to be able to help us most to win games in the fall.
Well, before we get you out of here, we kind of do this with all the new guests, kind of some more get to know you type questions. I know you mentioned your favorite team is the Eagles. Now we know they had a good start, and then the finish was not so great. So,
No.
so in your opinion, how can Philly turn it around next year and get back to being that Super Bowl contender that we saw last year and for the first part of this past season?
Yeah, I mean, I will say this, and I'll be honest. Like in season for a football coach, you're kind of isolated. So, I didn't really get to watch him much throughout the duration of the season. But like towards the playoffs and stuff, I got to check him out more. But it's just we just got to finish. They just got to finish games and rely on what's always worked for them. Right? They had a very powerful offense. There were some injuries in the secondary and in the back end. So, staying healthy is a big part of that. It's a long season in the NFL. You're playing a lot of games. So, when those games count the most, you want guys to be healthy. So staying healthy and then just, everybody playing as a unit, right? You might have seen in the media and stuff some breakdowns and some division among the teams. So, those guys got to remember, just keep playing, don't point the finger, and trust in your teammates and do what's got you guys to where you've been. So, go Birds. I'm hoping they turn it around a little bit.
That now, because you are in the Midwest again now, it's heavy cowboy country. There was a lone Eagles fan on the team last year. He has
Mm,
since graduated. He made it a point to get the trash talking in as much as possible. Now, are you one to, when Philly does beat Dallas head up there? Are you one to get the trash talking in, or do you kind of just let the
mm.
wind do the talking for you?
Yeah, nah, I usually let the wind do the talking for me. I will say this, the Cowboys fans do hang their hat on their Super Bowls. Every year is their year. And it's been a long time since I've seen them holding up a Lombardi trophy. But with that being said, Eagles fans there's some brutal fans. So I don't back all the things that they do and stand for. But I just celebrate the wins. I'm happy for the team, and you're not gonna find me trash talking anybody or anything like that.
Okay, because I know you mentioned JK earlier, right? So JK is a Texas Longhorn fan. Now I know
Mhm.
he and a few other Longhorn fans, they got it in something fierce with the trash talking. So I
Yeah.
was just I was just curious to see if that be okay,
Yeah,
that's
I saw he's a Longhorns fan too. Yeah, man. Texas, Mesquite, Texas.
Um, let's see. Okay, now I know you mentioned that you have a 1-year-old, so I'm sure your time between coaching and that is pretty limited. But when you do kind of get some time, I guess what's your favorite thing to do outside of football?
Yeah, sure. So, really rooted in our faith. We follow the Bible and we're pretty disciplined in that. And, we like studying together. Obviously, he he's not reading at that level or anything, but just really going outside and being outside. Really enjoy going on hikes and just being out in nature. The weather's been really good out here so far compared to back in the Northeast. So, we've enjoyed that break in the weather this early. So, I would say really like going on hikes or just being outside, going to the zoo or just little activities that really make his childhood experience a good one, I would say.
Okay, let's see. Do you play video games at all?
I do not. Well, I don't own a system anymore, but I know how to play some games. I used to play Madden, Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto, 2K, those type of games, Assassin's Creed. But I don't own a system though, no. So if one of the players, bring the system by or they get the system set up, I'm more than happy to hop on the sticks.
Now, when you own a system, was it an Xbox or was it a PlayStation?
So the last system I owned was actually it was a PlayStation 3. So it was, you know what? It might have been a PS4. It might have been a PS4. I really couldn't tell you. I mean, I was an Xbox 360 guy for a long time. I never got the Xbox One. And then I had a PS3. I think I ended up getting a PS4 maybe and then sold it like a few years back. But and that showed like I couldn't even tell you what I had, but I always liked Xbox more, especially when the 360 came out, but I couldn't even tell you which one is better at this point. I hear both arguments.
Yeah, yeah, I'm like you. So my very first non-handheld system was a GameCube.
Oh
But
wow, yeah.
then
Oh
the
yeah.
first system that I bought with my own money from allowance
Wow. Wow,
was
yeah. Money well
PS2.
spent. Money
So
well
I
spent.
was on. It was it was back in 2008. I think it took me a
Mhm.
month and a half save up
Wow.
allowance to go get a hundred and twenty five
Wow.
dollar PS.
Oh yeah, man. That's a different time right there, man.
So
It's
you
a
game for
different
like 20
time.
bucks.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was a lot that we used to go to Blockbuster and go get the games, man. They shut the Blockbuster down back in my hometown. It went out of business.
Yes, yeah, there was. I'd say it was simpler times, but
Mhm.
I yeah, but no, I still play the 360 for NCAA, even though at some point now in the near future I can probably retire the 360. I'm
Yeah,
sure it's
yeah.
it's it's, it's long overdue, but
Yeah.
uh,
14 though, man. That's the one, man. NCAA 14, that's classic. That's the one.
yep, that's why I still play it. I'm at least once a week. I still play it. I suffer from what is it, Dynasty Restart Syndrome, where I'll start a
Mm.
Dynasty and then set it up and be like,
Mhm.
I don't know, I'm not feeling, or I have a better
Oh
idea,
man.
and then it's just this endless cycle. But I'm
That's
just to get one
that's
to get
funny.
one in before the new game comes out.
Yeah, yeah. You got to, man. It's only right, And I know there's a lot of buzz for the new NCAA, so I'm excited to see how it is. Maybe I'll get a chance to play it, man. So NCAA series, I always liked them more than Madden. Like it was fun. Road to Glory and all that. It was a great time.
Good, good, good. Okay, let's see. Your favorite musical artist.
Hmm. My favorite musical artist. It's tough because obviously, especially with the new guys, the new generation, younger guys, they listen to a lot of these rap artists, NBA YoungBoy and all that. These got Rod Wave, I hear. But I really enjoy jazz. Like in my free time, I listen to jazz or like old school R&B. I like Winston Marsalis, John Coltrane, and Marvin Gaye. I'm more that's kind of my vibe if I'm listening to music on my own. But like Roddy Rich, he's got some nice stuff too. Um, I don't really have a favorite artist per se, but it all depends on the mood. If we're getting ready to go out on the field, I'm gonna listen to some '03 50 Cent, Get Rich or Die Trying or something like that. But at home I might chill and listen to, you know, some jazz music, right? That Get Rich or Die Trying, classic. You know, I saw you shake your head, man. Some of these guys weren't even born yet.
Well, it's funny because I have the actual hard copy CD.
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, that's the one though. That's one of them.
Okay. I'm glad that you mentioned NBA YoungBoy because everybody I talk to, players wise, and even extended to Coach Swanson as well. You ask them who the favorite artist is, either NBA YoungBoy, Little Baby, or the Baby. Listen, I might be older. Maybe I'm way removed from the game, but there has to be more than just those three artists out there.
Yeah, nah, there's not like those guys are just so like I know that you those guys are listening to Gunna too. Um, who else? Like there's just so many. I can't. There's Meek Mill. You know, I like Meek Mill. You know, he's from Philly, and you know he's got like some of his older stuff. I like it. You know, he's really talking about getting out of the struggle and stuff. So you know, I listen to some of those guys, but just like I don't want to get how do you say like I don't want to listen to too much of those guys if that makes sense. You know, because I feel like a lot of the younger guys too. You know, like I'm trying to chill at home and relax, man. I can't listen to NBA YoungBoy at home. You know, so that's just me. That's just me. And he's got some bangers now. I will, but I'm just saying, like I prefer like jazz or like R&B or something like that if I'm just chilling.
I see. I think that'll come with time. See, like you mentioned before, they're
Mhm.
still young. They hype all the time. So
Yeah.
give it till they get to their mid late
Mhm.
20s, get more into
Mhm.
life, and realize maybe a nice
Mhm.
melancholic low vibe is good sometimes.
Yeah.
So I
Mhm.
try.
That's funny, man. That's funny.
Let's see. Okay, your favorite food.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, maybe baked mac and cheese, I would say. Yeah, baked mac and cheese, like with a little bit, dark on the top, a little crunchy on the top. I love baked mac and cheese. I like my family, is from like North Carolina, a lot of them, Virginia too, but mainly North Carolina. And just the soul food is it's good for the soul. Love baked mac and cheese.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. You have any pregame routines that you normally do?
As a coach now,
Oh yeah, sure.
okay, yeah. Uh I don't have it. I can't say that I have anything specific. I mean, I am the type of coach like I'll go out on the field. I guess I'll say I'd go out and walk around the field for a little bit. It's just take it all in, take the moment in, walk around the field, like probably with my headphones in and just, go out there a little bit, maybe stretch, not like I'm gonna be doing any running, but just to take the moment in and just be out there, be present with those guys before we start warm-ups and what have you. So nothing in particular though, no. I will say, and Coach Pearson always we always laugh at this, but I always like to have like cough drops, with me. So my favorite cough drops are they're like I don't know, the flavor I guess is like kind of honey. They're the Alpine cough drops. It's like honey flavor. And I always like to have like just a couple cough drops with me. Just, like I just treat it like candy, honestly. Some people like gum, like I just like to have cough drops.
Let's see. Okay, now, in terms of when you were playing, in terms of the gear, now obviously we got a picture here. You got a little sleeve on there. You got your little
Mhm.
eye black. Now was that like as far as you went in the gear, or did you get more into the gear than what is shown in this picture?
Right. Yeah, nah, I mean, I was pretty simple. Like I usually just rocked one sleeve, something like this one is like a half sleeve, but like rock a full sleeve on the left arm. And then, I just had a towel hanging out the back and I had the socks. We call them the scrunchies. So, you see those DBs, it looks like you got 10 pair of socks on, but really you just have one and you cut the other ones and just scrunch them down. So, I used to rock just a sleeve, one eye black, and I would just I wore gloves. I would tape my wrist sometime. But really the sleeve, the towel, and the long scrunchy socks, that I felt like I was ready to go.
Now, why just the one sleeve instead of two sleeve?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. I feel like just maybe like when I was playing, that was more of a popular thing. Like now, for example, a lot of guys they wear ankle socks. Like you didn't really see that as much as like considered a swag thing, right? So you saw a lot of guys just wearing one sleeve though. Now you see guys like with one leg sleeve maybe, but the one sleeve, I just felt like it was just a cool look, it looked smooth. And I kind of just stuck with it, man. I liked it, maybe wear a long white sleeve or a long blue sleeve. So we were ready to go, man. Throw that sleeve on.
I know some of your DBs do get pretty big into the gear. You've got one Jonathan Mosley, self-proclaimed swaggiest guy on the team, dressed to the nines. I think Kobe Stevens somewhere around that. I know JK wears the double arm sleeve. So you got some DBs back there, kind of much to the irk of. Like I know the D line, they're kind of like, look at those pretty boys, but I'm talking like Hunter and those guys now.
Oh, yeah, man. Look good, feel good, play good, they say. So, it's just all part of the confidence aspect of it, right? You feel like you look good out there, you'll play well, and just, those guys have fun with it. As long as it's nothing, egregious or crazy, then, I'm all for it. Let those guys feel confident, go out there, feel like they're bringing that swagger, because you need it, you need it as a player. I feel like it's important. So let those guys have fun with it.
Well, that's my final question for you is, I guess, do you have a message to UCO fan supporters about the kind of play and maybe mindset that your cornerback unit will have this upcoming season?
Yeah, for sure. So, first I just, just want to thank, the Edmond community, the UCO family and community for accepting us here and just, with open arms. Everything's been great so far. Just, the places around the town or the campus itself, the staff and faculty on the campus have been great. But one phrase I'll just use is relentless chaos. Relentless chaos. Every play we're going to line up, we're going to be ready to go. And it's going to be chaos in a sense of, creating havoc for the offense is what we're aiming to do. So, not out of control the way you think chaos, but just controlled chaos every play, playing hard, playing for your brothers, playing with great effort, playing with great effort. So we're really excited about it. And just, again, we've just appreciated all the love and support from the Edmond community and UCO.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you taking time this evening to come on and talk to me. I'm wishing you the best of luck this spring. I hope you're able to make a few practices at a minimum, make it out to the spring game. But I'm wishing you the best of luck there as well, heading to the off season and fall camp. And anytime you want to come back on, you're more than welcome to.
Absolutely. Again, thank you so much for having me on the Cho Show. I appreciate it. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing you out there. I've heard great things. Shout out to you doing a great job. Just keep it going and roll Chos.
Thank you, Coach. I really appreciate the kind words there.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Coach.